This is part 3 of the Age of Exploration. Kind of ran out of time. We only have a few slides to go and a few more notes to add, so let's just get with this. I talked to you a little bit about, in the last episode, a guy named Bartholomew de las Casas and what he protested. You need to know this aspect of Spain and their system, economic system that was used to dominate the New World. So the encomienda system is a very controversial aspect of European history. The motive of the encomienda and the Spanish government was to reduce the savage exploitation of the American Indians in the Spanish Empire. In reality, these laws against exploitation were really poorly enforced. So the system that they devised was that American Indians would work for an owner for a certain number of days per week, but retain other parcels of land to work for themselves. Very similar to what we've learned about the manor and feudalism. And this should make sense because in terms of the European economy at the time, this made sense because, you need protection. That's what got them through the Dark Ages. So in essence, that's what they did. They brought that solution that was used in Europe and they implemented it in the New World. But Spain's ability to forcibly utilize American Indian labor was a major reason why the Spanish imported so few slaves from Africa, whereas Portugal did, really start bringing in slaves from an early time period. But it was a vicious cycle, and it really is, in many cases, described as basically the subjugation of American Indians as slave labor. It was protested, as we said, by Bartholomew de las Casas, but it was actually supported, and this is a very big theme in the European history content, where you have documents from Bartholomew de las Casas, chastising and criticizing the encomienda system, but Juan Sepulveda, a Spanish official in the crown, actually supporting it. Both men actually are very religious and religious figures. In fact, both are members of the clergy. So stay tuned for that. You probably will see documents from both of those gentlemen. In terms of, we mentioned intercultural relations. So you had the development of mestizos, Spaniards who married American Indian women, creating children of mixed white and Native American descent. Relatively few Spanish women came to the New World during the 16th and 17th century. So Spanish soldiers and Spanish men would get together with American Indians and create a mixed race of mestizos. And then you had Creoles, Spaniards who were born in the New World to Spanish parents. They eventually came to dominate the politics in the empire and later independence movements from the mother countries. So the Atlantic nations outside of Spain, France, England, and the Netherlands also will follow the Spanish by establishing their own colonies and trading networks to compete with the Portuguese and the Spanish. All right, so we have the Dutch, and the Dutch East India Company was founded in 1602 and became the major force behind Dutch imperialism. It expels the Portuguese from Sri Lanka and other spice islands like Indonesia. By 1650, the Netherlands began challenging Spain in the New World and controlled much of the American and African trade, slave trade as well. So again, they'll take that from Portugal, but they're the world's chief merchant class. They're like UPS back then. All right. Again, I'll explain that as we go through the commercial revolution. France also gets involved. They get involved with the likes of Jacques Cartier in search of the Northwest Passage. He explores the St. Lawrence River region of Canada. Quebec, France's first settlement in the New World, was not founded till a year after Jamestown, so that was 1608, and France will eventually lay claim to over one-half of North America before being expelled after the French and Indian War. So they're going to be a major player in North America. Spain still south in Latin America, and we'll see France and England compete for dominance in North America. So the English came into exploration relatively late. Their first permanent settlement was not founded until 1607 with Jamestown in Virginia. Tens of thousands of Englishmen came to the eastern coast of North America in the 17th and 18th centuries. Far more English, you need to know this, came to the New World than French, Spain, and Portugal combined. One of the reasons many of them came for escaping primogeniture laws. If you need to review that, just ask me in class. But also many came for religious persecution, so they came with their families, and they were fruitful in some areas and multiplied. So by 1775, 2.5 million Europeans lived in the original 13 colonies. So again, even in the 7 Years' War, there were many, many more English settlers than French and Spanish, and Dutch for that matter. And that's why the Dutch will actually get kicked out of New Amsterdam and it will become New York. The Treaty of Tordesillas is another thing that you need to know. Spain sought to secure Columbus's discoveries in the New World, and so basically they got together with the Pope, and the Pope in 1494 helped draw a line in the dirt. All right, Spain. The provisions were that the New World was divided between Spain and Portugal at the behest of Leo V. North and south line was drawn right down the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. Spain's territory was to be to the west. Portugal's land was going to be to the east. Portugal was granted exclusive rights to the African slave trade. Thus, Portugal retained Brazil and its claim to Africa, while Spain received the rest of the Americas. So kind of a plus for Spain there. We'll get into the commercial ramifications and the results commercially and economically as a result of the New World exploration in the next unit. But thanks for tuning in, and this is a weekend version, so have a good weekend.